मीडिया वेव्स टीवी तो खबरां दा लेखा जोखा प्रोग्राम दे विच आप सब दा स्वागत है।
Khabran Da Lekha Jokha, August 28, 2024, has been sponsored by Hanif Litigation. Any criminal or regulatory law matters, contact lawyer Shahid Hanif at Hanif Litigation, 604-626-3144. Unionized handed-out workers reject new employer contract plan full strike. Unionized handed-out workers have rejected the latest contract offer from their employer after months of bargaining, and the union says it's planning a full strike. In a release Tuesday, Amalgamated Transit Union ATU Local 1724, the union representing handed-out says it is now weighing options to secure a fair deal. This vote sends a powerful message to Transdev and Translink that they must do better if they expect us to ratify a contract, said Local 1724 President Business Agent Joe McCann in the release. It says the new offer did not address the issues that they are key to the workers' well-being and their integrity. We stand united in our pursuit of fair wages, improved benefits, and better working conditions, the release said. McCann says that the union plans to move onto a full strike after filling a 72-hour notice with the Labour Board and after more than 87% of unionized workers voted against the deal. We'd like to get verified with the Fraser Valley in wages for our drivers in Vancouver, he said. It is not cheap to live in Vancouver and it's hard for our drivers. ATU Local 1724 has been in negotiations with Transdev since November of 2023. In June 2024, 95% of handed-out workers voted to authorize strike action. Then on July 3rd, handed-out workers initiated partial work withdrawals to ramp up job actions. These have included refusals to wear uniforms, collect fares, work overtime, fill out certain kinds of paperwork, and doing work for the clock, the release explained. The main issues under discussions are staffing shortages and poor compensation compared to other transit jobs in the region. Worker shortages have been a major factor in the skyrocketing use of taxis at handed-out, and riders have complained that taxi drivers do not have the same training nor provide the same door-to-door services, the release says. While a timeline for when a strike may begin is unclear, McCann assures that disruptions will not affect essential services, including those seeking dialysis, cancer, and MS treatments. Statistics from 2023 show handed-out has more than 30,000 registered clients who took more than 1.1 million trips last year.
हैंडीडाट वालियां ने जी अपनी स्ट्राइक करने के लिए सही पा दी है और यूनियन का यह कहना कि पिछले साल के अखीर तो चल रही गलबात है जी किसी नेपरे नहीं चढ़ी, इस करके पिछले कुछ महीनों के पूरी दे 87% के करीब जोड़े वर्कर्स ने यूनियन दे उन्होंने स्ट्राइक के हक दे विच अपनी वोट पा दी सी। सो ये तो हजे समा निर्धारित नहीं होया, पर 72 घंटे के नोटिस तो उपरंत हैंडीडाट वालियां दा कहना कि असीं स्ट्राइक दे वर्कर्स का कहना कि असीं स्ट्राइक दे उत्ते जावांगे। और स्टैटिस्टिक डाटा के मुताबिक हज़ारां लोग ने जिहड़े हैंडीडैट्स की सेवावां जिहड़ियां वो प्राप्त करते हैं और भावें कि टैक्सी सर्विसिज नूं इस दे बदल दे विच वरतण दी कोशिश की जाती है, पर वो सेवावां जिहड़ियां ने वो सही ढंग नाल कि नहीं कीतियां जा सकदियां और यही कारण है कि हुण स्ट्राइक्स की लड़ी दे विच हैंडीडाट ने जिहड़े उन्हां ने भी अपनी स्ट्राइक का ऐलान कर दिता है।
BC ferries on track for record summer as union claims vessel maintenance is rushed. As we head towards the Labor Day long weekend, BC ferries say it is on track for a record summer after a significant jump in passenger traffic compared to last year. That has also meant a significant increase in drive-up customers at the terminals, resulting in more summer sailing waits for travelers without reservations. For June and July, we've seen 1.6% increase in total passengers, with the 5.16 million traveling in June and July 2024 compared to the same period last year, and a 3% increase in vehicle traffic, with 2.08 million vehicles transported in June and July of 2024, said Ritinder Matthew, Director of Media and Issues for BC Ferries. Matthew adds that by the time the Labor Day weekend ends, the service will likely have seen its busiest season ever. There was a lot of preparation put in prior to this season, starting with which put us in a much stronger position this year compared to last year, and I think that really paid off, said Matthew. In May, BC Ferries announced it had hired hundreds of new employees, was adding extra sailings, and was optimizing refit schedules to ensure its vessels were ready for summer. That said, the summer hasn't been without its challenges. Our fleet is aging. Several vessels have been in service for more than 50 years, and the Queen of New Westminster turned 60 a few weeks ago. Despite our best efforts, we had the occasional cancelled sailings due to mechanical issues, Matthews said. But the union representing BC Ferries workers suggests some of those breakdowns could have been avoided. I would say there have been some issues, said Captain Chris Klassen, president of the Ships Officers component of the BC Ferry and Marine Workers Union. Typically, BC Ferries runs a pretty good maintenance program, but lately ships are being put out prematurely. I would say there are items called entry into service checklist, and these are being expedited, he shared. Klassen says the vessels meet regulatory standards, but the claim that running maintenance could be questioned a little bit as the company rushes vessels back into service. Klassen insists engineers and trade workers do a great job maintaining the ferries, but there are commercial pressures for the company to provide sailing. So the ships come out quicker than they should in some cases, and the consequences are felt by the traveling public with the breakdowns. Klassen also believes issues with recruitment and staffing have yet to be fully solved. I think we're seeing fewer staffing shortages, but we are still short-staffed. You can sit in the notices and come out about the services not being provided. Like the van driver who picks up the luggage, for example, it's one less crew member, which consequently affects the safe manning of the vessel, which lowers the license requirement for the vessel, which means fewer passengers can be carried. Klassen says he hopes the public understands the pressure BC Ferries is under, including the crew. With the limited number of vessels available, the crew is working hard to keep them moving and the public traveling. For its part, BC Ferry says it recognizes the inconvenience summer cancellations have caused, and it truly appreciates our customers' patience and understanding while pointing to future fleet replacements. Looking ahead, we know that we need new and larger ships to meet growing demands. We have a comprehensive vessel renewal strategy in place to replace our aging fleet and increase capacity in line with projected population growth on the coast, said Matthew. That includes up 7 new major vessels expected to carry up to 360 standard-side vehicles and 2,100 passengers, compared to the 250 to 310 vehicles and 1,200 to 1,500 passengers retiring vessels can accommodate. BC Ferry says the first of the new major vessel is due to enter service in 2029, with the rest by 2030.
ਲੇਬਰ ਡੇ ਲੌਂਗ ਵੀਕਐਂਡ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ BC ਫੈਰੀ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਖੁਲਾਸਾ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਕਿ ਮਈ ਤੇ ਜੂਨ ਦੇ ਮਹੀਨੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਫੈਰੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਆਉਣ ਜਾਣ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਰਿਕਾਰਡ ਤੋੜ ਰਸ਼ ਰਿਹਾ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੈਦਲ ਚਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਵਾਰੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਾਧਾ 1.6% ਹੋਇਆ ਤੇ ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਾਧਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ 2.8% ਹੋਇਆ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਐਲਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਰਿਕਾਰਡ ਤੋੜ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਲੋਕ ਸਨ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ BC ਫੈਰੀਜ਼ ਦੀ ਵਰਤੋਂ ਕੀਤੀ। ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਮਸਲਾ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ BC ਫੈਰੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਕੈਂਸਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਜਾਂ ਬ੍ਰੇਕਡਾਊਨ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਜ਼ਿਕਰ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਅਧਿਕਾਰੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਮੇਨਟੇਨੈਂਸ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਰਸ਼ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਵਜ੍ਹਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇੱਕ ਇਹ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਕਿ BC ਫੈਰੀਜ਼ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਦਾਰਸ਼ਨਿਕ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਔਰ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸੇਵਾਵਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਪੱਧਰ 'ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰਦਾਨ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਵੱਧ ਰਹੀ ਮੰਗ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੋਏ 7 ਨਵੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਫੈਰੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਫਲੀਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਜਾ ਰਹੀਆਂ, ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਿ 2029 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਫਲੀਟ ਦੀ 7 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਪਹੁੰਚੇਗੀ, ਔਰ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ 2033 ਤੱਕ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ 7 ਦੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਪੂਰੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਏਗੀ, ਜਿਸ ਦੀ ਕੈਪੈਸਿਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ 380 ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਹੋਏਗੀ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ 2100 ਤੋਂ ਉੱਪਰ ਯਾਤਰੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਫੈਰੀ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਸਵਾਰ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਆ ਜਾ ਸਕਣਗੇ।
BC orders review of vending machine dispensing clean harm reduction supplies. At a press conference Tuesday, August 27, Premier David Eby said the complaint about the vending machine caused him to ask the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction to do a review of any of the distribution methods that don't involve direct contact between a service provider and somebody struggling with addiction. The provincial government has ordered a review into a program offering clean harm reduction supplies for drug users in a vending machine outside Nanaimo General Hospital after BC Conservative candidate criticized the program. At a press conference Tuesday, Premier David Eby said the complaint about the vending machine caused him to ask the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction to do a review of any of the distribution methods that don't involve direct contact between a service provider and somebody struggling with addiction. Eby said the vending machines were dispensing harm reduction things like Narcan, clean pipes, and naloxone. Leader of the Conservative Party of British Columbia, John Rusted, said it is appalling and irresponsible to have a vending machine handing out drug paraphernalia outside a hospital. This is yet another example of the BC NDP's disastrous approach to public safety and healthcare under David Eby's leadership. We are seeing dangerous policies that promote and normalize hard drug use even in places meant for healing, he said in a statement. A downtown East Side advocate, Sarah Blyth, said it's important to re-evaluate what is being done in the province relating to the drug crisis, but the most important thing is to get naloxone into hands of people who need it. We need to make sure that life-saving, disease-preventing needles and harm reduction supplies are easily available to people, she said. She said people must take a look at the reasons why people using drugs need to get clean and safe supplies. The province also announced Tuesday that a new toll-free telephone-based health service will help those addicted to opioids access life-saving resources faster and even same-day treatment. The province said this line is for immediate assistance from a dedicated team that includes doctors and nurses who can prescribe life-saving medications that run 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It said that along with providing medication, the callers also be connected with an ongoing treatment team in their communities for a long-term care. Dedicated nurses will help make sure people are getting the longer-term care they need. The service is confidential. The treatment is covered under BC Pharmacare, the province said in a release. The Premier's Special Advisor on Healthcare, Penny Ballam, said opioid against treatments can reduce the harmful symptoms of opioid use, but people face challenges getting prescriptions. Through this new telephone service, people from anywhere in BC can quickly and easily get an assessment and be prescribed the treatments they need to start their healing journey, she said. Co-founder of Moms Stop the Harm, Leslie McBain, took to social media to express her disappointment with the new access line. She said she wants the province to find alternative solutions. What you've provided is a phone line, the cheapest way possible for someone to try to get help. A phone line, and as we all know, there's not enough beds or enough therapists or addiction doctors to help people then when they need it, McBain said in an X post. The province said that the opioid agonist treatment is the recommended first-line treatment for people with opioid addiction and have been shown to help people stabilize their health and lives, stay in treatment, stay away from toxic opioid use, and start a path to recovery. As an addiction medicine physician, one of the great frustration is the missed opportunities to provide care for someone when they are really ready to ask for help, said Dr. Andy Ryan, addiction medicine physician at St. Paul's Hospital and a medical director of the Road and Recovery Program at Provincial Providence Health Care in a release. In 2021, BC became the first province in Canada to train nurses to prescribe opioid agonist medicines. According to the province, BC now has 3,645 publicly funded substance use treatment beds, including 659 beds open since 2017, with more coming, and more than 4,600 people received publicly funded life in treatment and recovery support last year, 1,000 more than the year before. It said the number of toxic drug deaths in the first half of 2024 was 9% lower compared to the same period in 2023.
ਨਨਾਈਮੋ ਹਸਪਤਾਲ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਦੇਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਵੈਂਡਿੰਗ ਮਸ਼ੀਨ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਲਕ ਜਿਹੜਾ चर्चा शुरू हुई है। और याद रहे ये प्रोग्राम जो है इसके अंतर्गत वो लोग जोड़े नशे के आदी ने वो इस वैंडिंग मशीन के विचों नशा जोड़ा अपनी पूर्ति नशे जरूरत के मुताबिक जोड़ा नशा वो लै सकते हैं। और यह जोड़ा प्रोग्राम सी तकरीबन शुरू किया गया सी ताकि गैर कानूनी गलत जोड़े नशे ने वधेरे नशीले नशियां दे नाल हो रही मौतों नूं ठल पाई जा सके। पर हुण सवाल इस ते ये उठिया है कि नशियां की जिहड़ी इस प्रकार की बहाली पब्लिक तक देना कि ये वाकई सही है या नहीं। और ये उत्ते निगाहखोरी करने दे लई और खास तौर ते बहुत ही ज़्यादा डूंघाई नाल देखण परखण दे लई सूबा मुख मंत्री ने आदेश ने जिहड़े वो दे दिते है। पर चर्चा का विषय बहुत ज़्यादा वड्डी मात्रा दे विच विरोधी धिर दे जिहड़े मुखी ने पार्टियां दे मुखी ने वो भी इस ते जवाब तलबी कर रहे हैं।
BC to give update on wildfires as total number continues to drop. The latest with the numbers of wildfires failing around BC, the provincial government is set to give an update on its latest forecast. Emergency Management and Climate Readiness Minister Bowen Ma, Resource Minister Nathan Cullen, and experts from several agencies are expected to weigh in Wednesday afternoon. The number of out-of-control wildfires continues to drop in BC on the heels of a cold front, bringing rain and fall-like temperatures to many areas. About 280 blazes remain active across the province, with 15% or just over 40 of those fires classified as burning out of control. That's down from more than 100 out-of-control fires last week. None of the current blazes are considered wildfires of note, a designation issued when a fire is highly visible or poses a threat to people or infrastructure. BC government officials are set to provide an update on the wildfire and drought situation in the province later today. Campfire bans are lifting in many regions starting at noon, though other kinds of open burning continue to be prohibited in most areas, and the BC Wildfire Service is urging people to stay diligent in controlling their campfires. Anyone lighting a campfire must maintain a fire guard by removing flammable debris. They must have a sufficient water available to douse the fire, and they must never leave the flames unattended, the service says in a social media post. A campfire is any fire no larger than 0.5 meters high by 0.5 meters wide. Anything larger is considered a Category 2 open fire.
खास तौर ते मौसम दे विच आई हुई तब्दीली और हवा दे विच नमी वड्डा कारण मींह बारिशां वड्डा कारण मन्निया जा रहा है कि BC दे विच लगियां होईयां जंगली अग्गां दी गिणती दे विच कमी आई है, जिहड़ी कि तकरीबन 100 दे करीब है। पिछले हफ्ते नालों 100 जिहड़ियां अग्गां दी गिणती है वो घट है। और इस दे विच इस गल दा भी जिक्र होया कि इस दे बारे होर ज़्यादा वधेरे जानकारी मंत्री अधिकारियों दा नाल मिल के जरूर अज होर देणगे। पर याद रहे कि कैंपफायर्स ने जिहड़ियां अद्धे मीटर की घेरे दे विच दियां जिहड़ियां ने उन्हां दी भी जिहड़ी इजाजत आ वो अज तो शुरू हो जाएगी। और पर नाल दी नाल जिक्र इस गल दा भी होया कि जंगली अग्गां दे उत्ते पए हुए जिहड़े ने प्रभाव ने जिहड़े इह जिस दे विच कि बहुत ही ज़्यादा खतरनाक जिहड़ियां अग्गां ने आउट ऑफ कंट्रोल जिन्हां नूं कंसीडर किया जांदा दूजे दर्जे दियां उन्हां दे विच वड्डी पੱਧਰ दे उत्ते कमी आई है।
Toronto terror suspect came to Canada in 2018, became citizen last spring. A man facing terror charges for allegedly plotting an attack in Toronto along with his son came to Canada in 2018 and became a citizen just months before his arrest. Public Safety Minister Dominic Lee-Blanche provided a House of Commons committee with a detailed timeline of the pair's immigration file today. Ahmed Fawad Mustafa Al-Didi, 62, and his son Mustafa Al-Didi, 26, were arrested in Richmond Hill, Ontario, and faced 9 terrorism charges, including conspiracy to commit murder on behalf of the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. At the Public Safety and National Security Committee, Lee-Blanche confirmed the elder LDD arrived in Canada in February 2018 and made a refugee claim in June of that year. He became a citizen in May of 2024 and was arrested at the end of July. Lee-Blanche says the Canadian Security Intelligence Service became aware of the two men's threat in June and the minister was briefed on July 24th.
Toronto, ਟੈਰਰ ਅਟੈਕ ਦੀ ਯੋਜਨਾ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਪਿਓ ਪੁੱਤ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਖੁਲਾਸਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ 2018 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਆਏ ਸਨ ਔਰ 2024 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਨਾਗਰਿਕਤਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਸਵਾਲ ਵੀ ਖੜੇ ਹੋਏ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਮੰਤਰਾਲਾ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਕਦੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦਾ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਿਆ। ਮਈ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ ਮਈ 2024 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਨਾਗਰਿਕਤਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ।
BC government bans cell phone bell-to-bell in schools province-wide. Ahead of the upcoming school year, BC Premier David Eby announced Tuesday that cell phones and other digital services will be restricted in BC schools from bell to bell. The province says all school districts now must have policies in place to limit cell phone use at school after restrictions were first introduced in April. EB and Education Minister Rachna Singh says it's part of a larger effort to keep students safe and healthy by protecting them from online predators, extortion and harassment. We want to ensure that when kids are in the classroom, they can learn without distractions that take away from their ability to thrive in school, said Singh. A restriction on cell phones to make sure that kids can be kids and can learn and can develop strong social relationships with their friends at school in the absence of these devices, and parents can make their own choices about whether or not their family is comfortable with a kid having a device or not, and removing that peer pressure that comes when everybody has a phone, said EB speaking outside a school on Tuesday. The BC Teachers Federation says cell phone policies in schools is best dealt with in partnership with teachers. While some teachers enjoy using cell phones as a learning tool, others find them to be a distraction. Ultimately, as professionals who know their students best, teachers are well positioned to determine what's most effective for their students' educational needs. The group says while teachers are happy to see cell phones policies get attention, there are much higher priority tasks that must be addressed. There is a staffing crisis across schools in BC, and teachers need adequate resources to ensure no child goes without the support they need, the BCTF said. The province also announced the Safe Access to Schools Act, which allows the government to prohibit people from interfering with safe access to school grounds. Access zones are in place at kindergarten to grade 12 schools, and the police can arrest or issue tickets to anyone found impeding access disruptions or interfering with educational activities or attempting to intimidate an individual with 20 meters 66 feet of school property, the province said in a release. It says the zones will be in effect from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. and during extracurricular activities with limited expansion. Distributively in our province, we saw 20 different disruptive protests on elementary schools and high school sites in British Columbia, including a demonstration in Burns Lake where adults were pounding on the windows of the school. AB explained that's why we also introduced a ban or protest within perimeter around the schools. Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Quebec, Ontario, and Nova Scotia all either have or are in progress of creating rules that restrict the use of cell phones by students.
BC ਦੇ ਸਕੂਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਕੂਲ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਣ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਵਾਲੀ ਬੈਲ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਸਕੂਲ ਬੰਦ ਹੋਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਬੈਲ ਤੱਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸੈੱਲ ਫੋਨ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਵਰਤੋਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਬੰਦਿਸ਼ ਦੇ ਐਲਾਨ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਨੇ। ਭਾਵੇਂ ਇਹ ਅਪ੍ਰੈਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ BC ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਸੁਨੇਹਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਕੂਲ ਆਪੋ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਕੂਲ ਡਿਸਟ੍ਰਿਕਟਸ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਪਲਾਨ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਕਿ ਸੈੱਲ ਫੋਨਸ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਲਕ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੀ ਕਾਰਗੁਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਹੋਏਗੀ, ਔਰ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਬਮਿਟ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੇ। ਔਰ ਹੁਣ ਇਹ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਈ ਦੇ ਵਕਤ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਡਿਸਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਨਾ ਹੋਵੇ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੈਲ ਟੂ ਬੈਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸੈੱਲ ਫੋਨ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਬੰਦ ਰਹਿਣਗੇ। ਪਰ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਖੁਲਾਸਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਸਕੂਲ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਟੀਚਰ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਕੂਲ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਬਿਹਤਰ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਸ ਤੇ ਯੋਜਨਾ ਨੂੰ ਲਾਗੂ ਕਰ ਸਕੇਗਾ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਕੁਝ ਟੀਚਰ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਉਦਾਹਰਨ
50 tenants displaced after Maple Ridge apartment building fire. A fire at an apartment building in Maple Ridge Tuesday night has displaced around 50 tenants. Maple Ridge Fire Department Chief Dave Sampson said a call about the fire along 119th Avenue near 232nd Street just after 7 p.m. It's an older 3-story building that's unsprinkled. When we arrived, we had heavy fire conditions coming on the second floor, he explained. One of the suites the fire was extending directly above to and got into the third floor to the suite above and potentially into the roof space. Sampson says crews were told that the occupant of the original suite had jumped out of the second floor to escape the flames. That resident, along with another, was taken to hospital and treated for smoke inhalation. Thankfully, no serious injuries are for any of the residents of the city, he said. The second alarm fire triggered 25 firefighters and crews to tackle the blaze. Sampson says crews doused the flames from the outside before attacking and knocking down the fire from the inside of the building. What Sampson describes as a transitional attack. We were able to contain the fire to each suite on the second and the third floor, but as you can imagine, there is a significant damage to the entire building with the combination of fire, smoke, water, he said. So the 36 suites in the building, all those occupants are currently displaced, which is approximately 50 people. The city of Maple Ridge activated its emergency support services, Sampson explained, and dozens of the people displaced were placed in a hotel overnight. As far as the cause of the fire, it's currently undetermined, but we will be doing a joint investigation with the RCMP tomorrow, Sampson added.
ਕੱਲ ਸ਼ਾਮ 7 ਵਜੇ ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ 223 ਸਟਰੀਟ ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਮੈਪਲ ਰਿਜ ਵਿਖੇ ਇੱਕ 3 ਮੰਜ਼ਲਾ ਅਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਨੂੰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਗ ਲੱਗ ਗਈ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ 50 ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹ ਬੇਘਰੇ ਹੋ ਗਏ। ਅੱਗ ਦੇ ਲੱਗਣ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਅੱਗ ਬੁਝਾਊ ਅਮਲਾ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 25 ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਫਾਇਰ ਫਾਈਟਰ ਸਨ, ਉਹ ਉੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ, ਅੱਗ ਨੂੰ ਬੁਝਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਮਯਾਬ ਵੀ ਹੋਏ, ਪਰ ਅੱਗ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਮੰਜ਼ਲ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਅਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੱਗੀ ਔਰ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਉਪਰੰਤ ਤੀਸਰੀ ਮੰਜ਼ਲ ਵੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਵੱਧਦੀ ਛੱਤ ਤੇ ਤੱਕ ਚਲੀ ਗਈ ਔਰ ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ 36 ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਅਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 50 ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਕੱਢ ਕੇ ਰਾਤ ਨੇ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਹੋਟਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਠਹਿਰਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ। ਉਹ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਅੱਗ ਲੱਗਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਅਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਚਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਮਯਾਬ ਹੋਏ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਧੂਏ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਹੋਈ ਤਕਲੀਫ ਤੋਂ ਰਾਹਤ ਦਿਵਾਉਣ ਤੋਂ ਉਪਰੰਤ ਉਹ ਠੀਕ ਨੇ। ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇਹ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਖਾਸ ਕੋਈ ਬਹੁਤੀਆਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਸੱਟ ਫੇਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗੀ ਹੈ, ਪਰ 50 ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹਨ ਇਸ ਵਕਤ ਉਹ ਬੇਘਰੇ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਨੇ।
Loopy wacky, or a big blue tent, growing pains for Rusted's BC Conservatives. When BC United staged a news conference in Victoria last week, party officials turned up with a proper literal tinfoil hat emblazoned with BC Conservatives Party logo and the words 5G resistant endorsed by John Rusted. On Tuesday, BC United leader Kevin Falcon followed up by saying the BC Conservatives are at risk of becoming a conspiracy party, not a conservative party. It's not just the official opposition taking aim at the political upstarts led by Rusted, who was dumped from BC United when it is known as BC Liberals ahead of the October 19 provincial election. Last week, Premier David Eby called on Rusted to explain how it is that consistency he is putting towards candidates that embrace and promote conspiracy theories. The BC Conservatives received less than 2% of the popular vote in the 2020 provincial election, but now are challenging Eby's New Democrats to possibly form government, far eclipsing BC United in every recent poll. But the party's expansion hasn't been smooth, with critics highlighting views shared by some of the party's slate of candidates. They have included likening 5G technology to genocide and a weapon and calling Pride participants degenerates. Political observers anticipate more bumps as the party tries to catch up to its rapid surge in popularity. Campaign strategist Ellie Blades at Vancouver's MASH Strategy said she expects voters to look more at Rusted as a potential premier and political power broker than at the activity of individual candidates this fall. People are voting for the brand of the party and the leader, she said. Do you think the leader can make a good premier? Do their party values align with mine? Blades, who worked with BC United on the party's rebranding from the BC Liberals, said the Conservatives may experience more hiccups in the run-up to the election and during the campaign. But for the most part, John Rusted's the one who has to stay on course with his key messages, she said. Professor David Black, a political communication expert at Greater Victoria's Royal Roads University said the speed at which the Conservatives vaulted onto the political scene, coupled with the equal rapid decline of BC United, and has become the political story of the past year in BC. The Conservatives have gone from being a hobby for a few disgruntled organisers who found the BC Liberals insufficiently conservative to a party that at the very least will form the official opposition and could be at best from power, all in the space of the year and a half, he said. The BC Conservatives were not immediately available for comment, but Rusted has said previously he wants the party to be a big blue tent and it intends to field a full slate of 93 candidates. We want to bring everybody together. We can defeat the NDP government in October, he said. One of the candidates helping fill that tent is Rachel Webber in the Prince George Mackenzie constituency. Webber has previously shared social media content about the 5G genocide. In 2021 Facebook post, she voiced concerns about microchips, cashless payments, and the threat of total government dependency control by saying the Antichrist comes before the rapture. EB's New Democrats last week called her loopy, while BC United issued a series of news releases about her wacky remarks. I think it would be helpful for Rusted to come out and explain why his candidates believe that cell phone towers cause COVID-19 and are genocidal weapons, EB said. EB also raised concerns about Bulkley Valley's Stikine candidate Sharon Hartwell, who used social media to praise leaders of the Freedom Convoy movement, Tamara Lech and Chris Barber, who are on trial in Ottawa accused of mischief, intimidation, and counseling others to break the law. Hartwell called them an inspiration. Among other current and former Conservative candidates raising BC United concerns, Paul Ratchford in Vancouver, Point Grey, who previously called legislator Eleanor Starko nor a star recruit for the Conservatives, a woke lesbian. Stephen Malthouse, a suspended doctor who was removed as the candidate in Ladysmith with Oceanside after repeatedly saying COVID-19 vaccines were more dangerous than the illness, and Damon Scares, who dropped out as Kootenay Comox candidate after the emergence of deleted posts in which he called some Pride Parade participants degenerates. Veteran BC United MLA Mark Bernier, who represents the deeply conservative Peace River South riding in the Dawson Creek area, said Rusted's concept of a big tent appears to be an open door to people with extremist views. Rusted's idea of big tent party is, I don't care if you have crazy conspiracy theories and where you think the earth is flat or 5G is part of the Antichrist and some of those weird things we've been hearing, Bernier said in an interview. Jones' idea is, I'll let people have crazy ideas. That's his idea of a big tent.
BC ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਿਣਕ ਭਰ ਪਪੂਲਰ ਵੋਟਾਂ ਦੇ ਹਿੱਸੇਦਾਰ BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੀ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਹੋਈ ਚੜ੍ਹਾਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਚਰਚਾਵਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਪੱਧਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਨੇ। ਦੱਸਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਮੁਖੀ ਜੌਨ ਰਸਟਡ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਇੱਕ ਵੱਡਾ ਟੈਂਟ ਦੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਥੱਲੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਇਕੱਤਰਤ ਹੋਣਾ ਤੇ ਅਗਾਂਹ ਚੱਲਣਾ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਹੁਣ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਨੇ BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਸੋਸ਼ਲ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਤੇ ਪਾਈਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਪੋਸਟਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਗਟਾਏ ਹੋਏ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਤਰਕ ਵਿਤਰਕ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੱਡੀ ਮਾਤਰਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਉਸ ਵਕਤ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨਾ 13 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਇਸ ਵਕਤ ਤੇ BC ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਧਿਰ ਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਮਾਤਰਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਸੀਟਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਉਹ ਲਿਜਾਣ ਦੀ ਲੱਗਦੀ ਹੈ। ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਮੁਖੀ ਜੌਨ ਰਸਟਡ ਨੇ ਇਹਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ 93 ਸੀਟਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਨਾਲ ਪੂਰੀ ਬਖੂਬੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ सूबे की इलेक्शन जी कि 19 अक्टूबर को वो लड़ेंगे।
इसी के साथ हमें दीजिएगा इजाज़त। खबरों दा लेखा जोखा प्रोग्राम से, until next time, goodbye and be safe.